morning.
Good morning.
Well, I'd like to continue the theme about living your dreams. Thank you. That was so beautiful. About 3 years ago, my son Michael finished his undergraduate work in athletic training, and he had the dream, the desire to continue because he wanted to practice physical therapy. And in order to practice physical therapy in the state of New Jersey, you must obtain your doctorate. And so he applied to numerous schools that had the DPT program in the tri-state area. But the one he really had his heart set on was the program that Rutgers offered. And he had that desire for several reasons, or he had that attraction to Rutgers for several reasons. One, he finished his undergraduate work there, so he was familiar with the people, the program. It was prestigious, but yet it was half the cost of what a lot of the other programs that he applied to. They were like 70, 80,000, where this was like 30, 40,000, which was more reasonable. And they only accepted 30 per year. And Michael, knowing himself, he likes the smaller setting. He knows that he learns better in a small setting, so he was all fired up. So he sent out all his applications. And several weeks after the deadline came, he started to get letters back from the various schools that he applied to. And one day, he received a denial letter from Rutgers. So he was devastated, disappointed, and I stayed with him, we talked and, embraced him. And then I began to remind him of the journey that he's taken so far. I've shared, because I talk a lot about my boys, even though they're adults, I will continue to talk about them. They're one of my greatest joys and gifts in my life. And so some of you may already know that school was not easy for my son Michael. He had several learning difficulties, one of which was he had difficulty with reading. He had auditory processing, and he had issues with organization and attention. So, needless to say, he didn't always do well in school, nor did he embrace it or love it. But what he did love, he had this ability he has a kinesthetic intelligence. We all have intelligence. Our divine sacred gifts are in all different areas. And one of him that was so alive was this kinesthetic intelligence, and he has this big heart. And so as a young boy, I would see him flitting across the monkey bars that were pretty high, and I would see adults marvel at his strength. And he would win these weightlifting contests, and he got a job at the YMCA, and he was the top personal trainer. People loved him. When you're seeing somebody in their element and in their joy. So I reminded him of that, and I reminded him of his journey, where he's had many disappointments, where the road was a little longer for him, because when he first entered Brookdale, before he went to Rutgers, his skills were not, quote unquote, up to par. And so his education path to get his bachelor's was longer. So we talked about all the roadblocks and the twists and turns, but how he kept to that desire, his dream. And so I just said to him, is the desire to do this, does it make you feel alive? And he said, yes. And I said, I know, I see it in you. I said, so I want you to focus on that. And then after the disappointment, after days, he went to these other programs, and he decided that he was going to go to Stony Brook in Long Island. And so he was in this place of acceptance. I would see he was whistling along, looking at, maybe he was going to meet a new person to date in Stony Brook. Maybe that's why he was going to Long Island. A week before the program was supposed to start, Rutgers contacted him and said, "We have a spot open. Would you like to be part of our program?"
Yes.
And he said yes. And I've told you this, but I'll say it again. And in March, he graduates with his, not March, May, he graduates with his doctorate of physical therapy. He's so passionate about it. Yesterday, someone came, a neighbor that I didn't even know. We live in a townhouse community, came knocking at the door. It was like 9:30 in the morning. I'm like, who is this? There's like, Michael home? And I'm like, no, he's not here. Oh, well, my daughter-in-law needs physical therapy. And I thought maybe I could talk to Michael. And I'm like, oh, well, hi, nice to meet you. I didn't even know you were my neighbor. But anyway, that's what I'm saying. Like, he lives it, he breathes it, he talks about it. So how many of you have ever really wanted something? Everybody? And how many of you have really wanted something and were disappointed? Didn't get it, right? And some of those disappointments are a little easier to let go of. Or not having our desired outcome is a little easier to let go of than others. All right, we didn't win the lottery. Wah, wah. I'll buy another ticket next week.
Yep.
Right? I didn't, I was working out, eating like healthy, clean eating, and the scale didn't move. Right? Wah, wah. Not so big, even though it might be a little disappointing. But how about my cousin Roseanne, who underwent treatment for cancer, and then found out that the treatment didn't work. And so they told her she had to have, at 60 years old, one of her lungs removed. And so she had her lung removed and went through the healing and didn't need the oxygen tank anymore. And then on her way to her checkup, a couple of weeks ago, she collapsed in the parking lot, only to discover that she has 15 brain lesions. That's a little harder to release our attachment or our desire for a particular outcome, right? And so I want to talk about what does it mean to release or let go, not be attached to outcomes in our lives. And before I go there, I just want to do a review of where we have been on this series, in the great work of your life, where we are looking to call forth our Dharma, our greatest, highest potential, to live our dreams and desires, right? So first, we explore along the spiritual path that we are to go within. The Green family is looking within. What is ours to do? What is most alive within us? Not to look out here, but to look within. And then when we get that divine guidance, we are to claim it. We are to name it. We are to set intentions, affirm it passionately, visualize it, see it, taste it, feel it, embody it. And then we talked about the practice, the deliberate practice of mastery, where we engage in our gifts, or that which we are wanting to call forward, where we engage the practice of them, to be masterful at them, being wholeheartedly in the expression, offering our gifts to the world. And then we come to the third pillar of Dharma, and it is let go of the fruits. Let go of the outcome. And it may almost seem paradoxical. What do you mean detached? You know, for days and weeks and months I've been feeling it, tasting it, breathing it, living it, feeling all this passion, zeal, and zest. And now I'm supposed to be like, oh well, let it go. You know, did you ever watch this, I don't know, I might be dating myself, Saturday Night Live. I forget, was it Nadine? I forget the character that used to say, simmer down now, simmer down. Right? Always, is that what detachment is all about? It almost seems counterintuitive. But I want us to take a closer look what it really means to detach. So first I share a quote from the Bhagavad Gita. And Lord Krishna tells his devotee, Arjuna, that acting with detachment means doing the right thing for its own sake, because it is our sacred duty without worrying about success or failure. T.S. Eliot paraphrased Krishna's advice when he wrote, "For us there is only one thing, and the rest, there's only one thing, let me read that again. For us there is only the trying, the rest is not our business." And Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, said something similar. Our power of love is our power of spiritual desire. Those desires that spring forth from within in our desire to express our potential. Our spiritual gifts that are seeking expression. And our power of love is the unifying power that gathers all of our energies to be in congruence with one another, to push forth and express our desire. And so he says, we are to love for the sake of loving. We do not love and unify to get. For when all of our energy is in the unification of divine purpose, we are in the state of love's fulfillment. Well, that's easier said than done, is it not? So I want to take a deeper look at what we are being asked really to detach from. So if we look at it as, what are we relinquish? Our power of elimination. What are we being asked to detach from or let go of? So we are asked to offer our gifts out, to offer ourselves out, and not to be swayed by the reactions, the criticisms, and the comments of others. Right? We are asked to release our desire to control and orchestrate every person, place, and thing in our life. We are asked to release egoic thinking. For when we are living from egoic thinking, we are either living in the state of grandiosity, we are the best thing, the most wonderful thing, look at me, would you applaud me, will you love me, will you like me, which is also paradoxically playing small at the same time, right? And when we are living from this state of giving to get, we are living from the outside in. See, everything out here will determine my worth. Everything out here will determine what I do and what I don't do. It's hard enough to figure out what I want, let alone everybody out here, is it not? But it does not mean to detach from our passion. and our purpose and our desires, and to keep getting up and offering our gift. And also, when we are in the practice of detachment, we also have to realize that when we are clinging to something so strongly, we are in tunnel vision. We see only that outcome. We see only that result. And when we are only there, we collapse the field. Did you ever hear of the field of potential? The field of limitless possibilities. How could we even invite something else maybe in if we are so grasping so tightly to that? How can we be the embodiment of our greatness if we are living in that anxious mind, worrying whether we are winning or losing? So how do we embody this detachment? But like everything else along the spiritual path, it doesn't mean it is easy, but honestly, I have found it is the only way I can move through the changes and challenges and the impermanence of this world and feel love and joy and peace in the midst of sometimes crazy and challenging things that are going on in my life. And so I look to the spiritual path and being a devotee to the practice of self-reflection, prayer, and meditation. And so part of that daily inventory is looking and seeing, where am I clinging tightly to an outcome? And the first hint will be, where are you suffering? Where are you experiencing pain? And then once you recognize that, notice the feelings. We're so good at stuffing it. We're tough, we're strong. Lift your chin up. Don't let them see you sweat. Or remember all the slogans we hear, we learn? But our power is in our vulnerability. And so when we can look and see and feel all of it, to be honest, and then do your prayer work, do your denials and affirmations, do your tapping, do your yoga, your Pilates, or whatever it is that helps you release it. Share it with somebody. Share your disappointment with somebody that can hold the high watch with you, that can offer empathy, but at the same time remind you of your greatness. And then after looking and seeing and feeling, congratulate yourself for the courage it took to even take a risk. And then look and see. Because Principle 1 reminds us that there is good that can be gleaned from every situation, even those perceived failures. Because we know within them, we have the opportunity to dig even deeper. Where was maybe I not in alignment with my greatest, highest good? Or maybe where I am in the relationship or in the job is not in alignment with who I value and my principles. And the universe has a crazy way of shaking that up when you have something alive here and you're in an environment that is doing something different. At some point, there's a collision. Has anybody ever had that happen to them? Yeah. I was bitching and moaning, about my first marriage. I was even in counseling. Oh, I don't think I want to be here, blah, 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 blah. Well, he had an affair. The rest was done. And then I see the blessing in that. And I'm grateful for all that was gleaned there. Maybe not in the moment, because I was in my indignation and my anger. So my friends, it is not easy, but it is the only, for me, way that leads to peace, that leads me to dig deeper and to embody that which I desire. And so to be in a relationship with those we love, giving our best without losing ourselves, and while not being attached to who we think our loved ones should be. Through the practice of detachment, we can learn how to start a business, apply for a job, and live in non-attachment of the results, and not allow our disapproval or naysaying if we don't get what we want to crush our spirits or paralyze us. And the art and practice of detachment also teaches us how to engage in social activism, to stand for justice without getting caught up in anger, vitriol, thereby creating more division and creating more groups of the other. And so as I close, I read an excerpt from an article entitled "Life Follows No Plan." We probably each have a million things we can let go of. If only we could recognize that clinging is a form of resistance. Clinging is putting out the message that we are not worthy, and that if things don't happen exactly as we have planned them, we are doomed. And what happens when we cling, when we resist? Our disappointments persists. To surrender isn't to stop trying. It is to recognize that when we have tried our best, we are allowed to be content and at ease with ourselves, regardless of the outcome. It is a deep acceptance that if this one thing doesn't work out, there is something greater for us. And I leave you with these wise words of wisdom from Oprah Winfrey. Have the dream, and then surrender it to that which is greater than yourself. Have the dream. Love the dream. Nurture the dream. Water the dream. Work fiercely and diligently toward the dream. But then when all the work is said and done, have the courage to let it go. Namaste.